is that if everyone is not on board, and primarily if business is not on board and has absolutely no sense to the communities in which they do their business, then they are very willing to take from those communities and not reinvest in them at a level that is a reasonable expectation given the impact they have on the infrastructure of those communities. So that with that lost, we have really lost not only a source of revenues, but we have, again, and I don't want to label all Republicans,
sure,
but we certainly have a party that serves those business interests before they serve the interests of the common good, which is the people, many of whom I choose to give a voice for in government that may never show up at the polls because they have been, through despair, disenfranchised themselves from participating in a process that they have every right to participate in and would hopefully do so.
One of the curious things is, I mean, my family were all Republicans, but they weren't like the current ones at all. They were a little slow and a little suspicious of outsiders, but they didn't have any sort of sense that there wasn't a common good out there.
No.
And it's been a big change, and I suspect a lot of people still retain their affiliation with the Republican Party, remembering how things used to be,
yes,
and not how they are now.
Yes.
And so you're not against Republicans. I mean,
I have in high school, for example, my best friend was a Republican, John Birch Society Republican, in fact, and we would be able to civilly discuss differences of opinion, which obviously, coming from a very liberal perspective that I had during my youth, and one that was extremely conservative, as about as conservative as could possibly be expressed during that period of time, from a member of the John Birch Society, that we could nonetheless walk away from a discussion as friends and prepare for the next civil engagement. And what I find today is that, again, and my son Adam, who is a Naval Academy graduate currently serving in the Navy, has a sense of that he has shared with me, having gone to Washington on many occasions, and at least at that level, that there's no requirement for the participants to engage each other socially any longer, to the level where they have to be something more than just what I consider and call living in contrived civility. They can actually hold to those views that separate and create a chasm that neither, and unfortunately Democrats can be as fixed in their positions as Republicans can be, that neither side has any intent on closing. And part of it is, again, this association. In times past, they resided there. They finished their sessions and would go out and have dinner together. And all of that has changed significantly. And it may be the same in Sacramento, where, again, there is no sense of requirement that we actually like the party that sits on the other side of the aisle. And I think that's sad. That's sad, because I think there is healthy disagreement that can be had in order to arrive at healthy compromise, that it takes into account, again, first and foremost, for me, the common good and the needs of the people.
That's what I was going to say. You have to see that the idea of a common good is there.
That is
you're
my
different, and I'm different. We got to work out some way
That's
of
correct.
meeting together.
That's correct.
If you don't have that, you're in trouble.
That's my position, yes.
Education in California.
Education in California is, again, one of those issues that I think has become an annual football that gets thrown back and forth. Threats are made that it will be cut and cuts will be made. I don't know that that our legislature is living by the spirit of Proposition 98, which, when it was passed by the people of the state of California, was passed with the intent that education of all of the public services that government was responsible for providing would be done so outside of the political arena that creates the kinds of difficulties we're seeing today. And yet, at least for the last 2 or 3 or 4 cycles, that has been actually put on the table as one of those pieces of legislation and protection that could be reduced. Now, we all know that it would require a 2/3 majority to do that, and fortunately Democrats are in a close to 2/3 majority, so that's not going to happen. But the simple fact that it does, okay, puts everybody in our public education system in a very awkward position. What is their future? What will be their future in 5 years if they have seen a history of education being used, okay, by our legislatures as a way of balancing something that should not be balanced on the backs of our children and their futures? That's the most important thing. That it would be one thing if it was just a temporary effect, but these are cumulative effects. They're long-term effects, and that to break with the continuity of an educational process on an annual basis, or threaten to do so, is, I think, a shame. I would like to add, and I don't know if I mentioned this during the last opportunity to speak, but we happened to be in Houston, Texas, when the budget was first at an impasse. And the governor was again making his threats that we were going to probably lower the level on Prop 98 funding and all of the other cuts that were originally proposed to occur in education. And there was an advertisement, not an advertisement, there was a front page story on how districts in Houston were appealing to California teachers to come on board. Okay, and and the unfortunate thing about that is that it is the newest teachers that are being hired into the system that are, of course, being issued their pink slips, and that those are exactly the teachers that we have been expending some state funds to promote into teaching and to hopefully recruit into what is a lifelong process. However, one would never guess the way education is actually managed in the state of California, that one, it's at all a significant event in anyone's life, and that it has any need for continuous and sustained attention above the fray.
One question you reminded me of. One of the reasons for the California budget impasse is 2/3 requirement.
Yes.
What should happen to that?
I would hope that we could get rid of that, or at least modify it to where it was at least preceding the Prop 13 mandate. There is a history to the 2/3. It wasn't always in existence in the state. It is a part of our original Constitution that came into effect in the 30s as a result of wanting to, again, control legislative taxation abilities, but it was put on only if a budget was to be 5% more than the previous year's existing budget. Okay, so that if it didn't go above that, the 2/3 didn't apply, and a simple majority was allowed to get the budget passed. I would like to see that reintroduced so that it protects. It protects the concerns of perhaps more fiscally conservative. Definitely a position that I think, unfortunately, Democrats have been mislabeled as fiscally irresponsible. But I think that it protects that kind of abuse that might come about, and the situation that exists today, where essentially 15 sitting Republicans can simply stop the whole process, and in fact, that is exactly what
what's
they've
going
done.
on right now.
That's exactly what they've done.
You know, we're coming to an end here. I hope you've been as impressed as I have by Joe's knowledge of problems facing California, ways of looking for solutions, the realization that the Republican Party in the state not living up to its conservative fiscal responsibilities, that we need a vision of the common good. And I know that you should be impressed by the fact that Joe is extremely articulate in defending these ideas and values. And so I would urge, let's get Joe in the state Senate. Thanks.
Thank you.